rated mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised. Welcome to the Patriot Angle Podcast, a show about America's truth, unhinged, unfiltered, raw. Your host, Mike Gardner. Hello, folks. Welcome to another edition to the Patriot Angle Podcast. On to today's show, we're going to talk about very, very heated yet sensitive topics of what our culture of society is heading into. Folks, it's not for the weary eye. It's not for the sensitive heart. Folks, we are going to get into some heated topics today. I want to talk about what the country is going through, and if we're not careful, what it could lead into. Folks, we're seeing destruction, we're seeing chaos, we're seeing basically modern day current unrest, okay, in this country with rioting, looting, just destruction, folks. I mean, it's getting bad. It's getting real bad. 10 years ago, I want to stop right there and basically explain where this country's going into. We're going into another civil war. If not, we are in the process of it. Okay, and I don't mean like, people putting on different colored uniforms and, fighting for liberty and justice. We are doing that, but it's not the civil war that you're thinking of from the 1800s. And I'll explain to you what happened then versus now, because there is a lot of similarities of what happened in the 1800s of when the North and the South fought one another. We're not fighting over 13 colonies. We're fighting over freedom, liberty, and basically our constitutional rights. Like I said, a lot of similarities, folks. A lot of similarities between both types of arguments. Now in the 2020s, then in the 1800s, mid to late 1800s. Folks, let me start off with about 10 years ago. There's a model, literally a model that forecasted the U.S.'s current unrest nearly a decade ago. And then it was saying that if the country does not shape up, it could lead into a modern day civil war. And that was, folks, that was a decade ago. 10 years ago, a model of how states failed predicted that politically instability in the U.S. would peak in the years around 2020. And this was a model that said about 10 years ago, a decade ago, okay, said that the U.S. would peak in the years around 2020. So that model was basically correct, because last year we were seeing the mist of everything basically being shooken up pretty much. I mean, we've seen a lot of rioting, we've seen a lot of looting, we've seen a Marxist group called Black Lives Matter, and a domestic terrorist group such as Antifa, looting, destroying businesses. I mean, we were seeing it in the making, folks, last year, right after the pandemic hit our shores. Okay? Its authors say it's now pointing to a civil war. Okay? That predicted that model about 10 years ago. In the early 1990s, folks, when Bill Clinton was in the White House and the United States looked unshakable, the administration appointed Jack Goldstein to study how states fail. They meant other states, not the U.S. Few expected that his model would later predict their country's collapse. In an unpublished paper submitted for peer review, Professor Goldstein, who is a socialist, or did I say that right? Psychologist, excuse me, folks, and Peter Turkin, an expert on mathematical modeling of the historic societies, have concluded that the U.S. is headed for another civil war. The conditions for civil violence, they say, are the worst since the 19th century. Folks, that's true. I mean, literally, our civil violence is basically, it's worse now than it was in the 19th century. Okay, in the 19th century, yes, you had civil violence, you had civil unrest, you had a lot of arguments, the country was going through its own scenario back then. But folks, you did not have the violence back in the 19th century that you have now. Justice then, law and order, was looked at a very, 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 very high standard back then than it is looked at now. I mean, literally, law enforcement now is like a joke. I mean, nothing gets done correctly. The justice system is damn near broken, if anybody can agree or disagree with me on that one. In particular, the years leading up to the start of an American Civil War in 1861. So basically, he's saying that this mathematical expert here, Peter Turkin, said that the civil violence is worse now in the 21st century than it was back in the 19th century during the original American Civil War in 1861. The reason for this are trends that began in the 1980s with regard to inequality, selfish elites, and polarization have been crippled by the ability of the U.S. government to mount an effective response to the pandemic disease, they wrote. And basically, I mean, that's true, folks. I mean, you look at the government right now, our U.S. federal government, and they have no effective responsibility to mount this chaos that's happening right now in America. It's bad. I mean, we have bad leadership. We have first of all, they're corrupted as hell. And what the hell are they doing for this country? They're not doing a damn thing. This has also hammered our ability to deliver an exclusive economic relief policy on the tensions over racial injustice, which is very, very true, folks. Like I said, this is a very, very different American society than it was 2 centuries ago. I mean, like I said, the law and order in this country is dead, or at least it's heading in that direction. Is the U.S. headed for another civil war? In a word, yes, it is. It is. If nothing doesn't get done properly and our federal U.S. government doesn't mount to responsible decision making, yes, our country could head into another civil war, a modern day civil war. This country has historic history on civil wars. This won't be the first, and sadly won't be the last civil war if our government doesn't get its acts together. Professor Goldstein is a leading authority on the study of revolutions and long-term social change at the George Mason University. The model developed by him and Peter Turkin tracks such data as the ratio of median workers' wages to GDP per capita, life expectancy, average heights, and the number of new millionaires, right? It also measures political polarization or a degree of overlap between the two parties. Okay? Applied to U.S. history, folks, it also predicts that the 1861 Civil War and the unrest of the 1930s, a time of the Jim Crow segregation, a guided age of equality and fascism. 10 years ago, Professor Turkin pointed his model towards the future and made an uncannily accurate prediction. Just like in the 1850s, crisis indicators were rising, he wrote in a journal. They could be reliable, or it could be a reliable indicator, folks, of looming instability and a look set to peak in the years around 2020, which we just mentioned. I mean, this model is literally right on its point of a breakdown. And you could look at the latest poll here. We're looking at a poll right now at the age of Discord 1. The age of Discord 1, starting off of an early republic here in the country, which was around between 1780 to 1800. Very low. An era of good feelings, pretty much, right? And then right around 1840 through 1880, 85, right before the 20th century, the American War started out, okay? And the American War, Civil War, played out a fact of how this country was going to become, all right? Because we all know that the Revolutionary War basically created the United States. Sadly, it created the United States. The Civil War, years later, basically said to where the country was going to go and become. Okay. The political stress index combines three crisis indicators: declining living standards, increasing conflict, and the weakening of a state. That's basically what this model is explaining. During the 1900s, the early 1900s, World War I broke out. From 1900 to about 1919, 1920, right before or right around the beginning of the Spanish flu. Everybody remember that, Spanish flu. And then about 20 years later, World War II broke out and lasted right into the 1950s. So that was basically the age of Discord 2. Folks, we may be possibly going into another age of Discord. Could be the age of Discord number 3 of this next modern day Civil War. Basically, in general, folks, collapse is basically happening here in America. And collapse happens slowly and then very suddenly. Excuse me. My throat is very dry today. I think it's because of the weather. It's been very, very dry here in northern Georgia. Different temperatures coming into play. But like I said, folks, I want to read more into this, what's going on. Okay. As we get to modern day of a society now, okay, what's going on now, okay, is basically, this is what's going on. Okay, you look, as of last year, former President Trump, near the White House around June 1st, 2020, are coming to say that, basically, civil injustice right around that time was basically getting at its peak. It was starting then, and it was basically getting out of control with the rioting from Black Lives Matter, the destruction, mayhem, and crisis from Antifa. A lot of people are coming to say that Trump is the cause of it. Folks, you can't point the finger just yet. What did Trump do? And how is this in comparison to the Civil War? Trump was basically putting a shutdown on corruption. Okay, and if everybody knows something, see, big government does not like when an outsider, such as Trump and others, put a lockdown on that, because the Democrats, folks, are always and will always be the party of war. They love war. They love mayhem. They love destruction. You can go back at its original founders, okay? Because you can look at like Abraham Lincoln, folks, and Abraham Lincoln was no angel. Yes, he abolished slavery, but Abraham Lincoln was basically the cause of the Civil War, the original Civil War, when he had his generals march down to the southern states and speak to the rebels and the Confederate Army. And I'll get into that in another podcast, folks. But like I said, you can look at the Democrats and you can look at all the Republicans back then. They're not angels, folks. They're not angels. Moving along, okay? These trends, folks, and the indicators have continued in recent years. Okay, looking at other countries that have collapsed. Okay, this professor sees a pattern of several indicators suddenly worsening before a sudden shock overwhelms the system. It could be a pandemic or a loss in a war, okay? Or perceived abuse by public security forces, he said. And normally, prior to this worsening process, a country would have to able to adapt to deal with that, or it loses credibility right away. Because of this long-term buildup of vulnerabilities, it cannot survive, folks. And what I mean by that is that we have a system in this country, okay? Social tensions could rise or they can set back itself, okay? And what I mean by that is that, okay, America has gone through different types of turmoil, different types of scenarios over the years, okay? I want to get into that, but I want to move on to other things because I really don't have the time nor the patience to explain of just that. But like I said, folks, this past election, okay, was a very, very big setback to America. That was basically given the radical left an opportunity to create racial injustice, create hate, and create a different type of revolution in this country, a little bit different from the original hatred that we've seen in the early original Civil War in the 1800s. Because, like I said, there's a lot of similarities, folks. There was two parties fighting one another. The original Whigs, which was the Republicans, and the Democrats. Okay, of now, the Whigs are now the Republicans, and the Democrats were always the Democrats. But like I said, folks, this has to end. This has to end. Okay, and if it doesn't end, we will see more racial injustice. We will see more hate. We will see stuff unlike you haven't seen before. And folks, it's just going to get worse and worse. It's just going to get worse and worse. With that being said, folks, I want to take a quick break. When I come back, I'm going to explain to you the difference between what we're seeing now, forming of a modern Civil War that we seen from the original Civil War in the 1800s. Because, like I said, the two wars back then, the Revolutionary War from 1776 to 1783, and then the Civil War of 1861 to 1865 has a significant similarity to one another, and I'll explain that, folks. But I gotta take a quick break, and I'll be right back after these words. Don't go anywhere. Hey guys, this show today is brought to you by Twitch app. What a great app, guys. Not only do we use it for the podcast here, but it's basically used by a lot of different types of shows. It's popular with talk shows, podcasting. Not only is that popular, But if you're a gamer, guys, oh, you're going to love Twitch. You can basically stream your own video game that you're playing right on the Twitch, as well as talking to fellow gamers on that app. It's cutting edge, guys. Head over to twitch.tv and plug it in, guys, because you'll love it. It's available on Google Play and the App Store. Download it today, guys. You'll love it.
A third of Americans actually believe that a second civil war will happen within the next 5 years.
We are as close to a cultural civil war as we have been since the 1860s. You have people very deeply divided. They have literally live in two different realities.
The U.S. Civil War has the highest American casualty count of any conflict. Somewhere between 600,000 and 800,000 Americans lost their lives during the 4-year battle between each other, and we're about to be there again. An October 2019 poll by Georgetown University found that Americans believe that the United States is 2/3 of the way to another civil war. This civil war is not North versus South like the nation saw in the 1860s. It's an ideological civil war. Liberals versus conservatives. Maybe even rural America versus urban America. A culture war. People have had differing political views since the dawn of government. But in America today, it's causing issues bigger than we've ever seen in modern history. And there will be casualties.
Our street! Our street! Our street! Our street!
There are many factors contributing to the brink of the Second American Civil War, and we're going to examine them on this episode of Learn Something. Firstly, we have to discuss the recent protests that have definitely accelerated matters with respect to a civil war. Amidst a global pandemic and the fears surrounding the spread of the novel coronavirus in 2020, a nationwide movement was sparked once again by the death of a young black male by the name of George Floyd at the hands of a Minneapolis police officer. The organization known as Black Lives Matter became a household name.
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter. And thousands of citizens in major cities across the United States took to the streets in protest. But many did far more than protest. Minneapolis, Atlanta, Seattle, Portland, Chicago, and many more American cities were being ravaged by violent anti-police protesters. The 3rd Police Precinct in Minneapolis was destroyed in a fire. CNN headquarters in Atlanta was invaded.
People are laughing, some people are videotaping.
They just threw something on fire, Chris, a firecracker. Something's on fire.
Nick, you all right?
You okay?
And it immediately became political. The right side of the aisle immediately condemned the violence and deemed it unjustified.
Everyone has a right to speak. You have a right to speak peaceably and exercise the First Amendment. What you don't have a right to do is engage in violence. What you don't have a right to do is loot stores. And the violence and the terrorism we're seeing across the country is unacceptable. It is wrong.
And the left side of the political spectrum saw it as marginalized America wanting to be heard.
I stand with you no matter what. And if they launch the tear gas against you, they are launching the tear gas against me.
The left chanted to defund the police.
Many are now demanding departments be defunded, dismantled, or outright abolished.
As the right sought to defend the police.
All Black lives do matter. He agrees with that sentiment. But what he doesn't agree with is an organization that chants pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon about our police officers, our valiant heroes who are out on the street protecting us each and every day.
These protests are among the many things ripping America apart at its core. The nationwide nature of these protests turned the movement into a revolution. They argue that the United States was founded on racism and bigotry, and the entire system that the nation runs upon is rooted in discrimination and needs to be demolished.
if we're going to hold together, we have to make a decision. Either fundamentally the American system is good but flawed, and we need to work on the flaws within the system, or fundamentally the American system sucks and was rooted in slavery and bigotry, and we need to rip down the entire system.
For years now, left-wingers have been arguing to remove Confederate statues from cities. Today, statues of George Washington and Thomas Jefferson have fallen to the ground. 2020 America is starting to look a lot like the fall of the Roman Empire. In June, the Capitol Hill district of Seattle, Washington became an autonomous zone known as Chaz. In other words, a part of a major U.S. city seceded from the United States. If that doesn't say civil war, I don't know what does. Not only is this war causing destruction of property, the protesters are armed with guns.
Chaz has guns.
A group of 100 to 200 heavily armed Black Lives Matter activists marched on Stone Mountain, a Confederate monument in Georgia. On the other hand, heavily armed right-wing protesters made their way inside the Michigan state capitol to protest Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer's coronavirus lockdown order. From a 10,000-foot view, it looks as if the division is racial. I mean, we're talking about Black Lives Matter here. Clearly, this is about race. But the division is not racial. The Civil War is not black versus white. It's left versus right. The 1963 March on Washington was primarily black. But today, over 75% of the protesters are Caucasian. Most BLM activists are not black. And there are plenty of African American critics of the Black Lives Matter movement.
You would never see me walking down the road with a damn Black Lives Matter sign. Black Lives Matter, that was built on a lie.
So, contrary to popular belief, the divide at its core is not racial. Now, in an aside, there is some debate about whether or not the divide is left versus right or urban versus rural. These BLM protests largely occur in the biggest urban centers in the United States, and rural America was largely unaffected by the mass protests early in the summer. My argument is, what difference does it make? The New York Times has a very detailed electoral map from the 2016 presidential election. Areas colored in red primarily voted for Donald Trump, and areas colored in blue primarily voted for Hillary Clinton. Compare this map to a population density map of the United States. Clearly, the darker areas on the population density map correlate with the blue areas on the election map. Urban areas with a high population density vote for the Democrat, the left-wing candidate, almost without exception. That's why I say, left versus right, urban versus rural, doesn't matter. Same difference, same divide. Moving on, George Floyd accelerated this political divide and made it come to blows. But he definitely wasn't the first person to do that. Before him came a name we've all come to know very well, Donald J. Trump. Trump is the most polarizing figure that America has seen in a long time. Most people are not indifferent about him. You either love him or you hate him. Most people these days cannot even entertain the notion of their side being wrong on anything. Trump himself thrives on this conflict, and even instigates it on his Twitter feed.
Trump is just throwing gasoline on a fire here. And he's having fun watching the flames. And he's having fun watching these holier-than-thou leftist journalists react like their moral sensibilities have been forever rocked.
On the left-wing side, they think Donald Trump is a spawn of Satan himself and is a racist, homophobic demagogue who stole the election from Hillary Clinton and must be removed from office.
I warned America that this was a dangerous man, a would-be dictator. This was a man who has no conscience. This is a man that should never have been in the highest seat of the land.
The right-wing side, on the other hand, think that he is a savior to America, trying his best to make America great again, but cannot do so because of the left-wing hate.
But Trump
is the bodyguard of Western civilization. Trump was elected to protect our families from the vengeful mob that seeks to destroy our way of life, our neighborhoods, schools, churches, and values.
The Democrat-controlled House of Representatives has already impeached Donald Trump.
Article 1 is adopted.
All right, folks, I'm going to stop it right there. If you want to hear the rest of that, folks, that's some interesting stuff. Interesting stuff on basically how we came to the crisis, the mayhem, the destruction of modern-day America. If you want to see more of that, head over to YouTube, guys. It's an awesome video clip of basically explaining how we came to be of what we're experiencing now. Everything from the differences between the original Civil War, the 1800s, to the Revolutionary War. Folks, the Revolutionary War, that was basically a war that basically, sadly, created the United States. Okay? The Civil War, the original Civil War, was a war that basically would give the altered outcome of how our country was going to be formed and where it was going to go from there. Folks, what we are seeing now from the last two set of wars, both from the 1700s and then the 1800s, late 1800s, and then now, just about 150, 60 years later, folks, we are seeing a lot of similarities in that. Now we are seeing a political civil war forming literally right before our eyes. And like I said, folks, before I get into that, if you want to see the rest of that clip that I plugged into the show, head over to YouTube. It's called Learn Something Politics. It's an awesome video. I actually watched the entire 21, almost 22 minutes of that clip. Very, 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 very interesting stuff. But moving on, folks. Like I said, if we are not careful, we are going to end up in a civil war. A lot of critics, a lot of people are saying we are actually in the beginning stages of it, and it is actually now forming into a political civil war, left versus right, urban America versus rural America. And folks, I can't argue with that because, like I said, you could see it from the rioting, you could see it from the looting, you could see it from a lot of different angles. And folks, it's going to get bad. Let's just say, if America were to fall, okay, it would leave a massive geopolitical vacuum, making the future of the entire world far more dangerous. And what do I mean by that? America is literally looked on the world stage as the global empire of the world, both economically and politically, for that matter. I don't think people realize how bad it would be and how bad it's forming right now. You are literally seeing our country collapse from rioting, looting, activists, destroying storefronts, businesses, destroying national monuments. I mean, folks, what you are seeing now is the same outcome and the same scenario that you've seen in the Roman Empire, of when the Roman Empire basically fell. It fell. It destroyed itself within. And the Roman Empire was destroyed. Are we seeing the same outcome that happened in the Roman Empire happen here in America? Are we seeing that? You can look like the similarities. And likely a country to fill that role right now would likely be the People's Republic of China. A world with China at the head will not be the world conducive to a free thought and expression, because the People's Republic of China is not the same country now than it once was. There are very, very much strong rules of law in that country. That country is ruled by a system called socialism and communism. It's terrible in that country. That stuff could happen here in America, probably a lot worse. I could not even imagine that. Let's look at a fact here, okay? And then right after I say this, I'm going to take a quick break. The fact that is that U.S. could and probably will most likely fall sooner or later. It depends on our government. It is a natural circle of things. Like I mentioned, the Roman Empire fell. The European empires like Spain, France, Britain, and Germany all fell. The Soviet Union fell. And America will follow that suit. Likely. Folks, we cannot let this happen. Of course, there will be consequences and destabilization. But that has happened every time this far. It's happened. All those countries I just mentioned, past and present. It will and could happen to America. And no, the world will not crash and burn just because the U.S. does. And the states that you don't agree with, they take more power, folks. And that's what we are seeing now in modern America. With that being said, folks, I'm going to take a quick break. And we'll be right back after these words. Don't go anywhere. Hey guys, this episode today is brought to you by Spotify. Spotify, guys, head over to Spotify and you can find this podcast, the Patriot Angle Podcast, on Spotify, as well as thousands upon thousands of other podcasts such as this podcast. Also, if you're into regular music, you can find music on Spotify. Spotify, guys, is just a cutting-edge music and podcast platform. Head over there, guys. You'll love it. Hey, folks. Back to the show. For those who's tuning in, we're talking about a lot of heated topics. We're talking about a possibility of an American modern-day civil war, left versus right. Literally, America is on a threshold of its own fate. Our future lies on us, literally. Our future lies on us, depending on where we want to bring it. We are seeing a society filled with hate, jealousy, rage at the highest peaks of an historic value of this country. Violence that we haven't seen since possibly the 19th century. And also the 18th century. Folks, we are seeing an outcome of divideness in this country that we haven't seen in possibly about 160 years. Folks, this is bad stuff. Very, very bad stuff. It's stuff that as an American you probably wouldn't even imagine or probably couldn't even come to a reality of understanding it. Folks, things that are happening in America, they're happening for reasons. The civil unjust, the racial divide, the common unjust, the unrest of injustice, rioting, looting, just mayhem, modern day mayhem. Folks, we're seeing this at its highest peak in our country's history. We are seeing the civil unrest happen right before our eyes. And folks, I can say that it's going to end badly with a possible civil war. And a lot of people are coming to calling it a political civil war. Because this civil war is going to be a little bit different from the original civil war. But with a lot of similarity. It's going to be different, yes, but with a lot of similarity. And what I mean by similarity is, the violence then will lead to the violence that we're seeing now. There will be casualty, okay? There will be a lot of bloodshed. And I'm not trying to scare anybody. But America is literally leaning towards that path. I mean, we're seeing the midst of it. We're seeing a lot of just craziness. Literally craziness. Antifa, Black Lives Matter. And speaking of that, I wanted to plug into the show, but I was trying to find a good part of the show to plug it into. I want to speak of Antifa and Black Lives Matter because, most of these groups here, like especially Black Lives Matter, have nothing to do with black individuals. Most of these people are of Caucasian ethnicity. Most of them college students, young Americans in their early 20s, okay, shouting for injustice, okay. These people are literally people of very young age, okay. And I want to get into that, but I want to plug in a video here of why armed protesters are preparing for civil war in America, and maybe this will basically have you understand of where we're going and how it came to be. So let's plug into this show here of basically of how it's coming into play, because this is very, very serious stuff. The last days before the 2020 presidential election, okay, this is basically I think, in my own personal opinion, where this group, or excuse me, these two groups are now going in the direction, because a lot of it, folks, is leaning towards these two groups. That's my own personal opinion. I might be kind of confusing some of you guys out there and like, whoa, what's Mike talking about? But, listen to this clip and you'll probably understand what I'm getting at.
The U.S. has a history of complicated and heated presidential elections. What's different this time is that the biggest political event of the last 4 years is happening amid the coronavirus pandemic, an unprecedented level of civil unrest sparked by the death of George Floyd, and the rise of the radical groups on both sides of the political spectrum.
Right now, we're breaking a city ordinance. What the cops say?
These groups attract very angry members who have taken to the streets, making protests look like full-scale war.
What you've seen here
was only a taste of what's about to happen.
These demonstrators are sometimes heavily armed, and they are not afraid of violence or law enforcement.
If you want a war, let it begin with us.
We're going to travel across the U.S. over the next week to meet these groups and their leaders to find out how far they're ready to go to fight for what they believe is good for this country.
All right, folks, I'm going to pause it right there. U.S. 2020, up in arms. Literally, we seen that about, 5-6 months ago of basically where it's happening now. Maybe 8-9 months ago, right? Where it's happening now. Okay, the truth of the matter, the fact, folks, is that literally this is now, like I said, a left versus right type of civil war. Okay? Has a lot to do with it's a modern day beginning of a civil war. And a lot of people will probably disagree with me and say, no, Mike is crazy, you know, he's deluded, this, yeah, call it as you must, but you cannot deny the fact of what you're seeing. You're seeing literally a modern America changing everything from cancel culture to blacklisting, censorships. I mean, we've seen that with Facebook, right? We've seen that with Twitter, all the social media accounts attacking free speech. Folks, we are seeing a transition, a transformation in this country like we've never seen before. This country is literally transforming itself into another world of a society. It's scary, but it's very, very, very true. I want to read a saying that former President Thomas Jefferson said once before during his administration. The tree of the liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants. It is its natural manure. And that was said by Thomas Jefferson. And I'll read it again, folks. The tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time with blood of patriots and tyrants. So what is he saying? Is he saying that America has to be basically reformed into another country? Do you think everything that you see today, folks, has always been the very same? No, folks. That would be impossible. This country that we have today is not the same country that it once was 100, 200, 300, 400 years ago. This country has changed drastically in the last almost 300-400 years of its history. It's gone through drastic changes. And can we see another refresh? A reform America? Well, folks, we could see that. And it could be in the midst of our lifetime. And it could be happening right now. But on a political standpoint. I want to fast forward into the clip here and just basically show you just more of everything else. Is a revolution coming to America? Well, let's see. Right? Is a revolution literally forming in America?
In one of the
again?
interviews, you talked about the French Revolution.
Yes, I did.
And how they basically guillotined all the elite to start everything from scratch.
They got fed up with the way government was doing things, and they did a complete reset. And that's something I think is coming to the United States.
Is it a distant thing in your opinion, or it is something that is right around the corner?
I can't really name a point where everybody would just rise up and say we're done. But we're in the early stages of a revolution as it is. You look at the civil unrest across the U.S. You look at groups like mine that are standing up and saying we're tired, we're done with it. we're already in the early stages of a revolution.
Mike was arrested for openly carrying a pistol, something that is prohibited in the city of Newport News, where we are, but legal in the state of Virginia. He was later released, and today he's staging an armed rally in front of Newport News police headquarters to demonstrate his disagreement with the law that, as he sees it, takes away his right to bear firearms.
All right, folks, I'm going to stop it right there, and then I will continue this on this very, very heated, yet crazy times that we're seeing in America. We'll be right back after these short words, folks. Don't go anywhere.
So hard to escape.
It's truly captivating.
Who are you? I don't know.
A brave new start for Marvel.
This is our home.
Then let's fight for it.
Marvel Studios' WandaVision, now streaming on Disney Plus, and upgrade to the Disney Bundle for even more.
All right, guys, we're back to the show. Folks, if times can get any crazier, I mean, literally, of what's going on in this country, I want to look at what we are seeing now. Like I said, I've been plugging in different types of video clips, segments related to a revolution that's coming to America. And this revolution, folks, is very similar to what we've seen in the Revolutionary War in the 1700s, of when people just got fed up with the government that we had back then. And folks, we are seeing a lot of history being repeated in modern America that you've seen in old colonial America, right? Because back then it was more of a colonial America, of a early young America then. I mean, America was basically being born back then with the 13 original colonies. Before there were the 13 original colonies, this country was opened, just an open landscape of a new world, so to speak. Folks, we may not be colonies anymore. We may be states, but these states now are going through repeated history, so to speak. Not only are we seeing a revolution in this country, but we're seeing states, citizens of those states, getting fed up with the tyranny of big government, of tyrants, literally destroying our liberties, our freedoms, our way of life in this country. Moving on to this group that I had mentioned earlier in the podcast, Antifa. A movement, or is it ideology? Well, let's listen in here.
President Trump has repeatedly accused an organization called Antifa of the most extreme violence and destruction on Portland streets.
The violence and vandalism is being led by Antifa and other radical left-wing groups.
What is Antifa?
Now, the anti-fascists tend to be committed to a couple of basic ideas. The idea that they're anti-racist. Many of them will also refer to themselves as anti-racist protesters. If you went out and interviewed people that self-describe themselves as anti-fascist, you'd have a hard time finding out who was a leader, because it doesn't seem as if there are leaders.
Now, are you guys with Antifa, or are you just regular protesters?
Antifa is a ideology. It's a belief that a lot of people hold, but it's not a group.
I myself, my wife, and most of us, we're just protesters.
Why do you need the knife with you?
This is for several things. One, I am a knife fanatic. I love blades, and it's also for self-protection.
Self-protection. From who?
A lot of people. There's a lot of people that they see me with, BLM shirt or something like that, and they don't like it. They try to start fights.
What do you guys make of the upcoming election? Because I've heard a lot of things that probably this is the most turbulent and most
right now. With the upcoming election, I feel like if Trump ends up in office, what you've seen here was only a taste of what's about to happen.
If Trump gets reelected, we're going to civil war. You can pretty much guarantee it.
I'm gonna stop it right there. If Trump gets reelected, that was from an unknown person that was commenting on this past election. Folks, we are already in the midst of a civil war, and Trump is not the ideal blame to this. You have to look at who is in government now and what we are seeing. We are seeing open borders. We are seeing our society change, literally, drastically, and rapidly. We are seeing rioting. We are seeing looting. We are just seeing mayhem of destruction at paths that we couldn't even imagine. I want to plug in one more topic here, folks. We're running very, very short on time, and I want to plug in here this: what would a U.S. civil war look like now in modern day America? Okay, because everything that you are seeing now, folks, it's happened before, and it could happen again, and will happen again. Almost certainty that it will happen again. Like I said, folks, these are very dangerous yet scary times. And everything that happened during the Revolution War and the original Civil War in America 150 years ago, a lot of the stages, a lot of the forming of those two wars are what you see today. Civil unjust. People literally forming their own militia groups, their own way of life, their own laws, taking the laws in their own hands. So, folks, we've seen that 150, 230, 40 years ago of people forming little militia groups in the 1800s. During the original Civil War and the original Revolutionary War. Folks, it could and it will happen in America today. And like I said, I do believe we are in the beginning stages of a modern Civil War where you will have it more political today than it once was.
Citizens like me and him are going to have to take up arms against the police, against racist groups, just to be able to live.
People talk about the Civil War and how they're going to take up firearms so easily this time. This is quite disturbing. Anyway, this man with a knife, he agreed to take us to one of Portland's street protests tonight, and we'll see how it goes. Hopefully, no one gets hurt. We are in Lansing, the capital of state of Michigan. And we came here for two reasons. First, there's going to be a huge unity rally in front of the city's capital, which is about to start. And second, Lansing made the national news recently when several local militia members were arrested for plotting to kidnap the state's governor. According to the FBI, the men were ready to storm the state's capital. right here, and, if need be, to start a civil war days before the November election. So let's find out what's going on here. What's her name?
I'm not giving my name, sorry.
Oh, sure. So, and why do you need to, cover your face? Is that a COVID thing, or you just don't want to be disclosed?
A little bit of both. We're here to have a conversation with Antifa, BLM, militia groups.
Then why do you have to carry a gun with you?
Because it's my constitutional right to do so.
All of these women, men, whatever they identify as, up here, have the right to arm themselves, key point, against the government.
In the American media, groups like Boogaloo, they usually be portrayed as white supremacist or nationalist or racist. Well, it's not exactly true, because as you just saw, they had an African-American guy on the steps on that makeshift stage who was giving speech and received a really good welcome. What do you think about this story of an alleged plotting of the local government?
I don't think it was a smart idea. I don't think it was good to do so at all, but I get why.
And why?
Well, the one guy, he lost his job, had no funding. He had to go live in the guy's basement. How would you feel?
Well, I could answer that. Definitely not attempting to kidnap
well, no, I get that, but
local official.
But there's nothing getting done in our government. Mm-hmm. And that is why you have the Boogaloo movement.
The Founding Fathers did not envision a nation of 360 million people being crowded under one centralized government. The first step is to nullify some of those powers.
Folks, if these video clips cannot explain what I'm trying to explain to you, I don't know what will. Folks, all I'm trying to say is be prepared. Be vigilant and be prepared for the coming and scary times we're facing here in modern day America. Folks, we live in a time when words are violence and silence is violence. Instead, beating and killing people, robbing shops, burning cars are not violence, but largely peaceful expression. Is that the time of America that we are living? Look at your debts and how big it is, the gap between rich and poor. On my next topic here. We have a president that is now not only attacking freedoms and liberties, he is reforming this country into a new world of uncertainty. Take the rich and poor, okay? They are now giving the poor an opportunity to move into what now people come to calling it white suburbia. Yeah, like the only, it's like this message that like these liberals are saying that, yeah, go move into white suburbia. Like, so I guess every rich person is white. There's no successful black or Spanish or Latina type people. If you're rich, you're only rich if you're white, right? That is such bullcrap and liberalism written all over it. Structurally, cutting means to survive is more than just violence. And this is being orchestrated, folks, by the far left. Yeah. Sound clip on that one. And this is coming from Biden himself. Yes, and Biden said the violent communist Antifa is just an idea similar to Pelosi saying MS-13 members are sparks of divinity. What does Pelosi or Biden care? What do they care about? They are worth millions and have armed security 24/7 paid by taxpayers. But they want to take the poor and bring them into regular suburbia type neighborhoods. Some of these people, folks, have worked their asses off to escape violence and crime from inner cities and just want to live in peace. What are you going to do when you take the crime and bring it into suburbia? Folks, we're seeing a lot of just backlash of what we are seeing today from some of these video clips I plugged into the show. Let's just give a comparison of what you're seeing in this country, folks. Do you know in Brazil, this day, okay? This is a day by day from 1970. And this is going to last a century. And it's still going on in Brazil. The same stuff you are seeing is still happening in parts of Brazil that's been going on since the 70s. And we are now in the 2020s, almost a century later. Folks, this is bad. Very, very, very bad stuff. I'm just telling you right now. Not only is big government coming after the Second Amendment, and I'm trying to cover a lot of stuff, folks, because what you are seeing is just destruction at its peak. Folks, all I say as I close this show is be prepared for the worst, because people are arming themselves for protection more now than they were ever. Let's look at a poll here, a sale poll here, of gun sales in the country. Literally gun sales. Last June, gun sales were up by 15%. Last August of 2020, gun sales, ammunition, up by 45%. As it got into the fall, mid-September, October, gun sales up to 65%. And folks, they're rising. Gun sales are rising and rising and rising because people are scared to death of what could happen in this country. The Second Amendment under siege. If we do not take back this country and elect in great leadership instead of corrupted socialists and liberals of communism, folks, you are going to lose your liberties, your freedoms, and everything you hold dear to this country. Our four founding fathers did not have a mark on this country, forming it a couple hundred years back, of what we are seeing today. This country was designed to be for and by the people, not for and by the government. And what you are seeing right now is everything of just a control tactic by the far left. They want to control you. They want to monitor you. They want to basically have rights over your own life. And we are seeing that right now. We are seeing that in another form of an America. Not only is this country going third world, but it's going to in visions that we've never even imagined. All I'm saying, folks, is be prepared and be safe out there. God bless you. And we'll see you on the next one.
You just heard an episode of the Patriot Angle podcast, an Anchor platform.